The cruelest betrayals are never the ones that happen in secret. They're the ones committed so openly that the person who loves you realizes they were the only one who didn't know. Autumn Brooks never imagined her marriage would end with a photograph. Not divorce papers. Not a screaming fight. Just one picture that spread across social media before sunrise. It showed her husband, Nathan Walker, smiling beside a runway model on the balcony of an oceanfront resort in Malibu. Sabrina Hale leaned comfortably against his shoulder, champagne in one hand, his suit jacket draped over hers as if they had been living the same dream for years. The caption was simple: "Perfect weekend with my favorite person." More than 40,000 people liked it before Autumn even opened her phone. She stared at the screen from the kitchen, still wearing the oversized sweatshirt she'd slept in. Her coffee had gone cold. The sunlight coming through the window felt strangely ordinary, almost insulting. Her husband hadn't come home the night before. At first, she'd believed the excuse he'd texted around 9. Late client dinner. Don't wait up. By midnight, she stopped calling. By 2 in the morning, she knew. Not because she caught him, because silence has a way of telling the truth before people do. The front door finally opened just after 8. Nathan walked inside carrying a leather duffel bag instead of an apology. He looked rested. Fresh haircut. Crisp white shirt. He smelled like expensive cologne and ocean air instead of the office downtown. Autumn looked at him for several seconds without saying a word. Nathan avoided her eyes as he headed toward the staircase. "You're packing?" she asked quietly. "I'm taking a few things." His voice sounded calm, almost rehearsed. "For how long?" He stopped halfway up the stairs, but never turned around. "I don't think that's the right question anymore." Autumn followed him with slow steps. "Then tell me the right one." Nathan let out a long breath. "I'm leaving, Autumn." The words landed with less noise than she expected. No shouting. No slammed doors. Just 4 words that erased 12 years together. She searched his face, hoping to find hesitation, guilt, anything that looked familiar. Instead, she found relief. "Because of her?" she asked. He didn't deny it. "I deserve a different life." The sentence hung between them like cold winter air. Autumn felt her throat tighten, but she refused to let him see her break. "So that's really your final choice?" Nathan nodded once. "It already is." Upstairs, closet doors opened and closed. Wooden hangers clicked together while Autumn remained standing in the hallway, staring at the family photos lining the wall. Birthdays, road trips, Christmas mornings. Every smiling picture suddenly looked like evidence from someone else's life. 20 minutes later, Nathan rolled his suitcase toward the front door. His wedding ring rested on the entry table beside his car keys. "You can have the house until everything's sorted out," he said matter-of-factly. "My attorney will contact you." Autumn finally looked directly into his eyes. "You already have an attorney?" Nathan hesitated for the first time. Barely a second. "It's easier this way." He reached for the doorknob. "I hope someday you'll understand." Autumn gave a small, almost invisible nod. "No," she answered softly. "Someday you will." Nathan frowned, unable to read her expression. Then he walked away without another word. The sound of his SUV disappearing down the quiet suburban street echoed through the house long after it was gone. Autumn stood completely still until the silence settled around her. Only then did she pick up her phone. She didn't call a friend. She didn't call her parents. She opened a contact she had saved years ago, but prayed she'd never need. Benjamin Cross. She pressed the call button. When the calm voice answered, she spoke only one sentence. "Mr. Cross, it's time to open the file." Benjamin Cross did not ask questions over the phone. He only said, "Come to my office at 10. Bring everything you never thought mattered." Then the line went silent. Autumn looked around the house one last time before leaving. It was strange how quickly a place could stop feeling like home. Nathan's favorite coffee mug still sat in the sink. His running shoes were by the garage door. His jacket was hanging exactly where he had left it 2 days earlier. The ordinary details hurt more than the goodbye itself. She carried 2 suitcases to her car, locked the front door, and slipped the wedding ring from her finger. She did not throw it away. She placed it inside the center console and closed it without another glance. Cross and Ellison occupied the top 3 floors of a glass office building overlooking downtown Chicago. The receptionist greeted her with a warm smile that somehow made the morning feel less lonely. "Ms. Brooks, Mr. Cross is expecting you." Benjamin Cross stood as she entered his office. He was in his early 50s, dressed in a charcoal suit, with silver beginning to show around his temples. His office overlooked Lake Michigan, but he did not waste time on small talk. He motioned toward a chair across from his desk. "How are you holding up?" Autumn gave a tired smile. "I have not cried yet. I am not sure if that is a good sign." Benjamin nodded thoughtfully. Sometimes the strongest people stay busy before they fall apart. She placed a cardboard storage box on his conference table. Inside were folders, notebooks, flash drives, old planners, and neatly labeled envelopes. Benjamin looked inside, surprised by how organized everything was. "You kept all of this?" Autumn folded her hands together. "I never imagined I would need it for this. I just never liked throwing important things away." Benjamin removed the first folder. Inside were handwritten notes from years earlier, outlining marketing strategies that eventually became the foundation of Halcyon Capital Group's largest expansion campaign. He opened another folder. Presentation drafts, investor research, meeting summaries, all in Autumn's handwriting. "Did Nathan know you kept copies?" Autumn slowly shook her head. Nathan always believed ideas only mattered after he presented them. Benjamin glanced up at her. "Who actually created these?" She looked directly into his eyes. "Most of them. I did." The room fell quiet. Benjamin continued sorting through the files, stopping when he reached a sealed envelope marked with a date from almost 4 years earlier. "What is this?" Autumn hesitated. "Do not open that one yet." "Why not?" "Because if everything else is not enough, that will be." Benjamin studied her expression for several seconds before setting the envelope aside exactly where she had asked. "Autumn," he said carefully, "I need to ask you something difficult. Are you trying to punish your husband?" She answered without hesitation. "No." "Then what do you want?" She took a slow breath. "I want the truth to stop belonging only to him." Benjamin leaned back in his chair, understanding far more than she had actually said. This was not about revenge born from anger. It was about a woman who had spent years standing behind someone else's spotlight until the world forgot she had ever been there. He closed the final folder and rested both hands on the table. "From this moment forward," he said calmly, "you do not call Nathan. You do not answer his calls if he suddenly remembers your number. You do not post anything online. You let him believe the story is over." Autumn frowned slightly. "And what if he never calls?" Benjamin gave the faintest smile. "People who think they have won rarely look behind them." He slid every document back into the storage box with careful precision. "Give me 3 months." Autumn stood, picking up her purse. 3 months. Benjamin nodded once. The strongest cases are never built with emotion. They are built with patience. As she walked toward the elevator, Autumn felt something she had not experienced since Nathan walked out the front door. It was not hope. Not yet. It was something quieter. The feeling that, for the first time in a very long time, she no longer had to carry the truth by herself. 3 months can feel like a lifetime when you believe you have finally escaped your past. Nathan Walker certainly believed that. By the beginning of September, his life looked exactly the way he had imagined it would. Sabrina had moved into his luxury condominium overlooking the Chicago River. Their weekends were filled with charity galas, rooftop dinners, and carefully staged photographs that painted the picture of a successful couple building an exciting future together. Friends congratulated him for having the courage to choose happiness. His co-workers admired his confidence. Nobody asked about Autumn anymore. That chapter, as far as Nathan was concerned, had closed. At Halcyon Capital Group, things appeared even brighter. The board was preparing to announce a new executive managing director, and everyone assumed Nathan would be the obvious choice. He carried himself with the easy confidence of a man who expected every door to open before he reached it. During one Monday morning meeting, he stood in front of a wall-sized screen presenting expansion plans to investors from New York and Dallas. His voice was steady, polished, convincing. When the presentation ended, the conference room filled with applause. Nathan smiled as several executives congratulated him. "You are exactly what this company needs," one board member said. "Fresh leadership." Nathan thanked him without hesitation. He believed every word. Meanwhile, Autumn's life had become almost invisible to everyone except Benjamin Cross. She rented a small apartment in Evanston, just 15 minutes from the lake. The place was modest but peaceful. Every morning she made coffee, opened her laptop, and organized another stack of documents Benjamin requested. Old calendars, digital backups, email archives, draft presentations. Vendor agreements. She worked quietly, almost methodically, never rushing the process. Some evenings Benjamin stopped by with takeout from the neighborhood deli. They spread documents across her dining table instead of eating immediately. "Do you remember this proposal?" Benjamin asked one night, sliding a binder toward her. Autumn smiled faintly. "I wrote that during the pandemic." Nathan presented it to the executive committee. Benjamin flipped through several pages before stopping. "Your writing style is unmistakable." Autumn shrugged gently. Nobody ever looked closely enough to notice. Benjamin reached into his briefcase and placed another folder beside her. "We received something today." Autumn looked at the label. "Internal communications." "Where did that come from?" she asked. "Someone contacted my office anonymously." Benjamin answered carefully. "A former employee." Autumn remained silent as he opened the folder. Inside were printed email chains, project schedules, and approval records showing that many of the company's most profitable campaigns had originated from files created under Autumn's employee account years earlier, before she left to support Nathan's growing career. Benjamin looked at her. "This changes things." Autumn did not celebrate. She simply stared at the pages, remembering the late nights, the missed holidays, and the weekends spent helping Nathan prepare presentations while he promised that one day they would both enjoy the rewards. She had believed him. Benjamin gently closed the folder. "There is still one thing I do not understand." "What is that?" Autumn asked. "Why would someone inside the company risk everything to send us this?" Before she could answer, her phone buzzed on the table. The number was unfamiliar. She hesitated before answering. "Hello." A woman's voice spoke quietly. "Ms. Brooks? My name is Lauren Mitchell. We have never met." Autumn exchanged a quick glance with Benjamin. "How did you get this number?" There was a long pause before Lauren answered. "Because I worked with Nathan for 6 years, and I cannot watch him build another promotion on your work." Autumn's heartbeat quickened, but she stayed calm. "What are you trying to tell me?" Lauren lowered her voice even further. "The documents you already have are only part of the story. There is something much bigger hidden inside Halcyon Capital Group. And if Benjamin Cross is serious about exposing the truth, he is going to need the files Nathan thinks were deleted forever." Lauren agreed to meet only once, and only in a place where nobody from Halcyon Capital Group would think to look. The following afternoon, Autumn and Benjamin found her sitting alone in a quiet neighborhood coffee shop nearly 40 miles outside downtown Chicago. She looked over her shoulder every few seconds before they even reached the table. "Thank you for coming," Lauren said softly. "I almost changed my mind." Benjamin pulled out a chair. "You still can. But if you asked us here, I assume there is a reason." Lauren wrapped both hands around her untouched cup of coffee. "I worked in executive operations. I saw things I was supposed to forget." Autumn remained silent, giving her space to continue. "When you left the company, everyone said you had decided to step away from corporate life." Lauren looked directly at Autumn. "But that was never true, was it?" Autumn gave a small shake of her head. "No." Lauren sighed. "I knew it was not. The week after you resigned, Nathan suddenly started presenting projects that looked exactly like the strategy sessions you used to run." Benjamin leaned forward. "Can you prove that?" Lauren reached into her bag and carefully placed a small external hard drive on the table. It was scratched around the edges, like something that had been hidden for years. "I copied these files before the company migrated to a new server." Benjamin did not touch it immediately. "What is on it?" "Revision histories. Internal meeting records. Original presentations. Metadata. Everything that shows who actually created the work." Autumn stared at the device without reaching for it. It looked so ordinary, small enough to fit into the palm of her hand. Yet it carried years of forgotten truth. "Why keep this?" she finally asked. Lauren lowered her eyes. "Because I watched people get promoted for work they did not do. I told myself it was not my business. Then I watched you disappear while everyone congratulated Nathan." Her voice cracked for the first time. "I should have spoken sooner." Benjamin finally picked up the drive. "Do you understand what happens if these records are authentic?" Lauren nodded. "My career is probably over." "Then why risk it?" She looked at Autumn again. "Because somebody has to tell the truth before it becomes permanent." For several long seconds, nobody spoke. Outside the window, traffic rolled past as if nothing extraordinary was happening inside the small cafe. Benjamin carefully placed the hard drive into his briefcase. "We will verify every file before we use anything. If this is legitimate, we will handle it the right way." Lauren stood to leave. "There is one more thing." She reached into her coat pocket and handed Autumn a folded piece of paper. The board is meeting next Tuesday. They are planning to vote on Nathan's promotion. Autumn unfolded the note. It listed the meeting time, conference room, and names of every board member expected to attend. Benjamin read over her shoulder. His expression changed immediately. That gives us less than 1 week. Lauren nodded. Then do not waste it. She walked out of the coffee shop without looking back. During the drive home, Benjamin remained unusually quiet. As soon as they reached his office, his technology specialist began examining the files. The hours crawled by. Sunset faded into evening. Finally, just after 8 o'clock, the specialist stepped into the conference room holding a printed report. Every timestamp matches the original servers, he said. Nothing has been altered. Benjamin slowly closed his eyes before looking at Autumn. This is no longer just a divorce case. Before he could explain further, his assistant rushed into the room carrying an overnight delivery envelope marked with the Halcyon Capital Group corporate seal. This arrived 10 minutes ago, she said. Benjamin opened it immediately. Inside was the official agenda for the board meeting. At the very top, in bold letters, one line stood out above everything else. Item 1. Formal appointment of Nathan Walker as Executive Managing Director. Benjamin folded the document with deliberate care and looked at Autumn. If we are going to stop this, he said quietly, we only get one chance. And next Tuesday, the entire company is going to be in the same room. Tuesday arrived with the kind of clear autumn sky that made Chicago look calm from the outside, even when lives were about to change inside its tallest buildings. By 8:30 in the morning, the executive boardroom at Halcyon Capital Group was already filling with directors, investors, and senior executives. Coffee cups rested beside leather portfolios. Quiet conversations drifted across the room. Everyone expected to witness a celebration. Nathan Walker adjusted the cuffs of his navy suit and exchanged confident smiles with the board members as they entered. Several shook his hand. Congratulations in advance, one director said. You have earned this. Nathan smiled politely. Thank you. I appreciate the confidence. Across town, Benjamin cross-buttoned his suit jacket while reviewing one final stack of documents. Every page had colored tabs marking specific dates, email chains, and project records. Autumn sat across from him, calm but unusually quiet. Benjamin noticed she had barely touched the cup of coffee in front of her. You still have time to walk away, he said gently. Autumn looked at him and gave a faint smile. If I wanted revenge, I would have done something 3 months ago. She rested one hand on the thick binder beside her. I came this far because I want the truth to have a voice. Benjamin nodded once. Then today is not about winning. It is about being heard. They entered Halcyon Capital Group through the front lobby just before 9:15. Employees glanced toward Autumn with quiet curiosity. Some recognized her immediately. Others whispered to co-workers who had joined after she left the company. Nathan noticed them before the meeting officially began. His smile faded the instant he saw Autumn walking beside Benjamin toward the executive floor. He crossed the hallway before they reached the conference room. What are you doing here? He asked, keeping his voice low. Autumn met his eyes without anger. Good morning, Nathan. He looked at Benjamin instead. This is a private board meeting. Benjamin calmly removed a sealed envelope from his briefcase. Not anymore. He handed it directly to Nathan. You have officially been served with notice that matters concerning intellectual property ownership, executive representations, and employment-related claims directly affect today's agenda. Nathan stared at the envelope without opening it. You are trying to embarrass me. Benjamin's expression never changed. No, Mr. Walker. We are trying to make sure the board has complete information before making permanent decisions. Nathan let out a short laugh that sounded far less confident than it usually did. This is desperate. Autumn finally spoke. If it is desperate, then you should not have anything to worry about. Before Nathan could answer, the board secretary opened the conference room doors. Ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to begin. Nathan slipped the envelope under his arm and walked inside, determined not to show any concern. The meeting opened with financial reports and quarterly projections. 20 minutes later, the chairman smiled toward Nathan. Our next item is the appointment of Executive Managing Director. Several directors applauded politely. Nathan stood and walked toward the front of the room. Just as the chairman prepared to continue, Benjamin rose from his seat at the back. Mr. Chairman, he said respectfully, Before the board proceeds, I request that this legal notice be entered into today's official record. The room became completely silent. Nathan turned slowly, his jaw tightening. The chairman accepted the envelope from the company secretary and removed the documents inside. His expression shifted almost immediately as he reached the first page. He looked toward Benjamin. "Counselor, these are serious allegations." Benjamin answered calmly. "They are supported by documentary evidence that this board deserves to review before any executive appointment moves forward." Nathan stepped forward. "This is ridiculous. None of this changes my qualifications." Benjamin met his gaze. "Perhaps not, but it may change who actually built the success you are being rewarded for." Every eye in the room shifted from Nathan to Autumn. She did not lower her head. She simply stood quietly beside the conference table while the chairman turned to the next page. Then his eyebrows rose. "There are original project records attached here," he said slowly, "and they do not list Nathan Walker as the author." The room fell into stunned silence as the chairman reached for the next document, completely unaware that what he was about to read would leave even the most loyal directors questioning everything they thought they knew. The chairman adjusted his glasses and continued reading in complete silence. One page became two. Two became five. Around the long walnut conference table, the atmosphere changed almost by the second. The congratulatory smiles disappeared. Coffee cups sat untouched. Nobody interrupted. They were too busy comparing dates, signatures, and project histories that stretched back nearly 8 years. Finally, the chairman looked up. "Mr. Walker, would you like to explain why these strategic proposals were drafted under Autumn Brooks's employee credentials months before they were presented under your name?" Nathan forced a calm smile. "Autumn and I were married. We worked together all the time. It was normal for us to exchange ideas." A few people nodded at first. It sounded reasonable. Benjamin remained standing. "Ideas are shared every day," he said evenly. "Ownership records are different." He walked toward the presentation screen carrying a slim folder. With the board's permission, the chairman gave a short nod. Benjamin connected his laptop, and the screen filled with archived project files recovered from the company's original server. Every document displayed a digital creation history. The first author listed on nearly every major initiative was the same name: Autumn Brooks. Benjamin clicked to another file. Then another: marketing expansion, investor retention, Midwest acquisition strategy, corporate restructuring. The pattern never changed. Autumn watched quietly from her seat. She did not smile. There was no satisfaction on her face, only the strange feeling of finally watching years of invisible work become visible. Benjamin spoke calmly. "The question before this board is not whether Mr. Walker contributed. The question is whether the company understood who created the foundation of its most profitable initiatives." One director leaned forward. "Nathan, did you disclose this collaboration when seeking executive credit?" Nathan looked around the room. "Everyone knew my wife helped me. That is what spouses do." Autumn finally answered. Her voice was steady. "Helping someone rehearse a presentation is one thing. Building the presentation, researching the market, writing the strategy, and creating the financial model are something very different." Nobody spoke after that. The silence carried more weight than any argument. Benjamin opened another folder. "I would also like the board to review internal email correspondence." On the screen appeared messages exchanged years earlier. Several executives recognized their own names immediately. One email from Nathan read, "Autumn has another draft ready. I will polish it before tomorrow's meeting." Another, sent just minutes later to senior leadership, read, "I finalized the strategy overnight." The room grew noticeably uncomfortable. One board member slowly removed his reading glasses. "Those two statements cannot both be true." Nathan shifted his weight. "You are taking those emails out of context." Benjamin nodded. "Context matters. That is why we brought the complete communication history." Before Nathan could respond again, the conference room doors opened quietly. The corporate information technology director stepped inside after being summoned earlier by the chairman. "Mr. Chairman," he said, carrying a printed verification report, "our department has independently reviewed the digital records submitted this morning." Every head turned toward him. "The metadata is authentic. The files were created on company systems and have not been manipulated." A heavy silence settled over the room. Nathan looked as though he wanted to object, but no words came. The chairman folded his hands. This board cannot proceed with an executive appointment until these matters are fully investigated. Nathan's face lost its confidence for the first time that morning. You cannot delay this because of old documents. The chairman met his eyes. We are delaying it because leadership depends on trust. Autumn lowered her eyes for a brief moment. She remembered nights spent alone in the office after everyone else had gone home, believing that one day the truth would matter. She had almost convinced herself it never would. Benjamin quietly closed one binder, but he did not sit down. Mr. Chairman, he said, there is one final matter that has not yet been presented. Nathan turned sharply toward him. What now? Benjamin rested his hand on the sealed envelope Autumn had told him not to open months earlier. This document was intentionally withheld until the authenticity of every other record had been confirmed. The chairman stared at the envelope. What is inside? Benjamin looked directly at Nathan before answering. The one piece of evidence that explains why all of this happened in the first place. Nathan's expression changed instantly. For the first time since walking into the boardroom, he looked genuinely afraid. Benjamin placed the sealed envelope on the conference table without opening it right away. Every person in the room seemed to be holding the same breath. Nathan tried to sound confident again, but his voice came out tighter than before. This has gone far enough. Benjamin looked at the chairman. With your permission? The chairman nodded once. Proceed. Benjamin carefully broke the seal and removed a single document, followed by several supporting pages. He handed the first sheet to the chairman before saying a word. The chairman scanned the page, then looked back at Autumn with visible surprise. This is a legal memorandum dated 4 years ago. Benjamin answered calmly. Prepared at Mr. Walker's request. Nathan's face immediately drained of color. That document is privileged. Benjamin shook his head. Not after your former attorney released it under a lawful records request related to this dispute. The room became so quiet that the air conditioning was suddenly louder than anyone's breathing. The chairman continued reading. According to this memorandum, Mr. Walker sought legal advice regarding the transfer of executive credit for several strategic initiatives completed by his spouse. One board member leaned forward. Are you saying this was planned? Benjamin did not rush his answer. I am saying Mr. Walker asked whether work created by his wife could be presented as his own if she voluntarily left the company after marriage. Nathan slammed one hand against the table, startling everyone. That is a complete distortion. Then please explain it, the chairman replied firmly. Nathan opened his mouth, but found himself searching for words that never came. Benjamin displayed another page on the screen. It contained a timeline prepared by the former attorney. Every major promotion Nathan had received matched projects originally drafted by Autumn. The dates lined up with remarkable precision. Autumn watched quietly, but inside, memories surfaced one after another. Late nights spent revising proposals while Nathan slept on the couch. Weekend vacations canceled because another investor presentation had to be finished. Birthday dinners interrupted by conference calls that she answered because Nathan insisted nobody understood the material as well as she did. She had convinced herself they were building a future together. She finally realized she had been building one for him alone. One of the independent directors looked directly at Nathan. Did you ever tell this board that your wife authored these initiatives? Nathan rubbed his forehead. She never complained. She wanted to help. Autumn answered before anyone else could. Helping someone is a gift. Taking credit for their work without telling the truth is a choice. Nobody challenged her. Even directors who had supported Nathan for years avoided looking at him. At the far end of the table, the head of human resources quietly spoke for the first time. If these records are accurate, the company may have made multiple executive decisions based on incomplete information. Benjamin nodded. That is exactly why we are here today. Nathan suddenly reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He stepped away from the table, quickly sending a message. Autumn noticed it, but she said nothing. Less than 2 minutes later, the conference room doors opened again. Sabrina Hale hurried inside, still wearing sunglasses despite being indoors. Several board members exchanged confused looks. Nathan walked toward her immediately. Tell them, he said. Tell them what kind of person Autumn really is. Sabrina hesitated. She looked from Nathan to the directors, then to Autumn, who simply stood there without anger or fear. The silence stretched uncomfortably. Nathan whispered urgently, say something. Sabrina slowly removed her sunglasses. I cannot. Nathan stared at her in disbelief. What do you mean you cannot? She swallowed hard. Because they already contacted me this morning. Nathan frowned. Who did? Sabrina glanced toward Benjamin before answering. The company's ethics committee. The room instantly grew tense again. Sabrina reached into her handbag and removed a folded letter. Her hands trembled as she passed it to the chairman. They asked me to provide a statement about everything I knew. Nathan's eyes widened. You did not. Sabrina lowered her head. I told them the truth. Nathan took a slow step backward, as if the floor had shifted beneath him. The chairman unfolded her written statement and quietly began reading. After only a few lines, he stopped, looked directly at Nathan, and said in a voice that carried through the entire room, Mr. Walker, I believe this meeting has become much bigger than a promotion. The chairman lowered Sabrina's statement onto the conference table with remarkable care, as though the weight of the paper had suddenly become much heavier than anyone expected. He looked across the room before speaking. Ms. Hale has confirmed that Mr. Walker repeatedly described many of the company's signature strategies as his own work during private events, investor dinners, and promotional interviews. Nathan immediately shook his head. That proves nothing. She was not involved in my work. Sabrina finally found the courage to meet his eyes. No, Nathan. But I heard you say more than once that nobody would ever question where those ideas came from because Autumn was too loyal to fight back. His face hardened. You are twisting my words. I wish I was, Sabrina replied quietly. The room fell silent again. Autumn watched the exchange without satisfaction. 3 months earlier, she would have cried hearing those words spoken aloud. Now she only felt tired. The chairman leaned back in his chair. Mr. Walker, before this board makes any further decisions, do you have anything you wish to clarify? Nathan looked around the room, searching for a friendly face. The directors who had once praised him now avoided eye contact. Finally, he turned toward Autumn. Can we talk outside? She looked at Benjamin, who gave a slight nod. That decision is yours. Autumn stepped into the hallway with Nathan. The heavy conference room door closed behind them, leaving only the quiet hum of the building. Nathan let out a long breath. Autumn, this has gotten completely out of control. She folded her arms calmly. Did it? You made your point. They know you contributed. Contributed? She repeated. Is that really the word you want to use? Nathan rubbed his forehead. Fine. You did more than contribute. I should have acknowledged you. I should have handled things differently. Autumn listened without interrupting. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Withdraw the claims. We can settle this privately. I will make sure you are compensated. She looked at him for several seconds before answering. Do you really think this has ever been about money? Nathan hesitated. Then what do you want? Autumn answered so softly that he almost missed it. I wanted you to tell the truth before strangers had to do it for you. He looked down at the floor. For the first time since she had known him, Nathan seemed smaller than his title. I made mistakes, he admitted. Do not let everything I built disappear. Autumn shook her head gently. That is exactly the problem, Nathan. She held his gaze. You still believe you built it alone. Before he could respond, Benjamin opened the conference room door. They are ready for us. As everyone returned to their seats, the chairman cleared his throat. The board has reviewed the documentary evidence, the digital verification, and the witness statements. Before we enter executive session, there is one final item. He looked toward Benjamin. Counselor. Benjamin stood once more. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. He removed a slim blue folder from his briefcase. Unlike the previous binders, this one contained only a few pages. Yesterday evening, my office received a signed agreement from Halcyon Capital Group's former outside legal advisor. Nathan's eyes widened again. Benjamin continued. The agreement confirms that several recommendations regarding intellectual property ownership were provided years ago. Those recommendations were never followed. One director frowned. Are you saying the company itself was placed at legal risk? Unfortunately, yes, Benjamin answered. However, the advisor also proposed a solution years ago. The chairman extended his hand. Benjamin passed him the folder. As he read, the chairman slowly nodded. Then he looked toward Autumn with an expression no one in the room had expected. Ms. Brooks, he said, if these recommendations are adopted, the board may have an opportunity to correct far more than a promotion. Nathan stared at the chairman in confusion. What does that mean? The chairman closed the folder and replied, It means tomorrow morning this company will vote on 2 decisions instead of 1. He paused just long enough for every person in the room to feel the tension building. One concerns your future, Mr. Walker. The other concerns the future that should have belonged to Ms. Brooks all along. The following morning, the boardroom felt different. The confidence that had filled the room the day before had been replaced by quiet reflection. Nobody arrived early to celebrate. Nobody joked over coffee. Every person understood they were about to make decisions that would shape the future of Halcyon Capital Group for years to come. Nathan sat alone at one end of the table. For the first time in his career, nobody stopped to shake his hand. Nobody congratulated him. Across the room, Autumn entered beside Benjamin Cross. She wore the same calm expression she had carried from the beginning. She had not come to defeat anyone. She had come to stop living in someone else's shadow. The chairman called the meeting to order. Yesterday, we suspended all executive appointments pending review. Overnight, the board completed its evaluation of the evidence, consulted outside counsel, and reached a unanimous decision. He looked toward Nathan first. Effective immediately, your promotion has been withdrawn. The words landed with quiet finality. Nathan lowered his eyes, but said nothing. The chairman continued. Until the internal review is complete, you are relieved of executive leadership responsibilities. No applause followed. Only silence. Then the chairman turned toward Autumn. Ms. Brooks, this board also recognizes that your documented contributions to multiple strategic initiatives were never properly acknowledged. That failure belongs not only to one individual, but to this organization. Several directors nodded. One of them spoke up. We benefited from your work without ever recognizing your name. That should never have happened. The chairman slid a folder across the table toward Autumn. If you are willing, we would like to offer you the position of Senior Strategic Advisor to the board. This role reports directly to us and reflects both your experience and the value you have brought to this company. Autumn looked at the folder but did not open it right away. She smiled politely. I appreciate the offer. The room waited. But before I answer, there is something I need to say. She stood slowly, her voice steady enough that every word carried through the room without effort. 3 months ago, I thought losing my marriage was the worst thing that could happen to me. I was wrong. She looked around the table. The worst thing was believing my value depended on whether someone else acknowledged it. Nobody interrupted. For years, I convinced myself that love meant staying quiet. That loyalty meant standing behind someone so they could shine. She glanced briefly toward Nathan before looking back at the board. Real respect does not ask you to disappear. Nathan closed his eyes for a moment. There was nothing left to defend. The truth had already done what anger never could. Autumn placed one hand on the unopened folder. I accept your offer, but on one condition. The chairman smiled slightly. Name it. Build a policy that guarantees every employee receives proper credit for the work they create. No assistant. No analyst. No junior employee should ever wonder if their ideas will belong to someone else. The chairman answered without hesitation. Done. Several directors nodded in agreement. Benjamin allowed himself the smallest smile of the entire week. As the meeting ended, people quietly approached Autumn one by one. Some apologized. Others simply thanked her. Nathan remained where he was until the room was almost empty. Finally, he walked toward her. Autumn. She turned. His voice was softer than she had ever heard it. I spent all this time believing success meant getting ahead. He looked down before finishing. I never realized I was leaving the best part of my life behind. Autumn's expression remained kind, but certain. You did not lose me because you loved someone else. She paused. You lost me the day you stopped seeing me. Nathan nodded slowly. There was no argument left to make. She offered a small, respectful smile before walking toward the elevator. Benjamin followed a few steps behind, carrying nothing more than a slim briefcase. As the elevator doors closed, Autumn caught one last glimpse of the boardroom through the glass wall. Months earlier, she had walked away from a marriage believing her silence meant defeat. Now she understood something very different. Silence is not weakness when it is spent preparing the truth. And the greatest revenge is never watching someone fall. It is rebuilding your life so completely that their regret no longer has the power to change your future. Because titles can be replaced. Wealth can disappear. Beauty fades. Even applause eventually grows quiet. But character, honesty, and self-respect are the only investments that continue paying dividends long after everyone else has stopped watching. If this story leaves anything behind, let it be this. Never allow another person's opinion to become the measure of your worth. The people who truly value you will never ask you to become invisible so they can feel important.